Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible. We're doing this on a Thursday because I don't know, why were we doing it? I just had to, just wanted to. We can do whatever we want.
We can. Well,
you see, I got the one fun thing that I look forward to sometimes. I got a Pokemon tournament.
Well, I just had an election, so...
And you won.
I did. Well, all of Canada won.
That is true.
Yes, everyone who doesn't want to be part of the state. So thank you to, thank you to Trump sincerely for showing us why we should not go with the Conservative Party and the ugly little mini-me that was attempting to imitate him while looking like a cross between Milhouse and Ferret Face. I don't know. But
oh man, I meant to grab a bottle or something.
I actually do have something, but I need to prepare a joke for that. So, RN, how many hoes do you have in your garden?
Literally 2, but go ahead. But what's the punchline?
Yeah, because I have one hoe garden.
Okay. I see.
Oh,
yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I mean, wait. I think my father bought it for Independence Day, so
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that for today, Tomer made the worst joke. Usually it's me.
So far.
And I want to send some love from Western Canada to Quebec. We love you guys, okay? Yeah. Come have wine. We have lots of wine. Come visit.
And so I have pretty busy weekend planned because a bunch of friends are coming in from out of town for the tournament. But they wanted on Saturday, they wanted to go to like a baseball game or something. And I think they just assumed that I would go with them. And I told them like I would rather shove my hand in a blender and then dunk it in rubbing alcohol. So that's not happening. I'm not going to that game. I am going to hang out with them afterwards.
Okay, then. All right.
No sports ball for me, thank you.
Oh, I always wanted to get that T-shirt that Philip DeFranco had made as part of his merch. That was just sports. Go sports ball. Yeah.
Yes. It's like, yep. If you say so. Whatever current sports ball thing is happening.
But I was friends with Robert Reed. I told him I'd wear it if we ever went to a game together.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it was always lost on me. I've been to one basketball game when I was 8 because the Harlem Globetrotters were playing in the halftime.
Fair.
And so being 8, I thought I was going to go see the Harlem Globetrotters. And I was bored to tears the entire time I was there. I saw one hockey game because my son was on the ice. And I saw one football game because it was the only place, the high school football game was the only place where I could get my girlfriend out of her parents' house unsupervised. Yeah.
So you saw football. The first third of it maybe at most?
Yeah. So I saw a bit, I saw somebody running on the field. But I mean, and I saw one baseball game because this girl wanted to go sit in the stands and just see a baseball game. Okay, we get the hot dogs and the Coke. They were doing the American thing. All of them just incredibly boring. I can't fathom why do people watch that?
Some people do find it exciting and they really identify with the teams. And like everything, it's more fun if you know what's going on. So if you're into the sport and know the intricacies of it, it can be very engaging to watch, just like anything else. But yeah, ultimately, I don't know. I don't like a lot of things that a lot of other people like. I like a lot of things that a lot of other people don't like. So I just have to accept that people like different things.
Yep.
It's like
football. Some people stay home and play with their snakes.
It's like watching, a Pokemon battle.
Yeah, I love watching Pokemon battles.
It's like watching a Pokemon battle, but instead of like superpowers, there's 11 people working together.
Well, I mean, I prefer to stay home and have endless orgies, occasionally satanic, varied in theme. But I just cannot seem to collect the correct number of men for that. And quality.
Cool. Yeah. Once I bring my library over there. Yeah, that sounds
yes, good. You're right. You bring your library and we'll find some friends.
And now we are doing 1 Chronicles 9, number 9.
Yeah, of course.
Who's reading it?
Of course. Turn me on, dead man.
Should we? Are we gonna do this in one go, or are we breaking it up?
What do you mean in one go?
Should I
It's
read?
44 verses.
Should I read the whole chapter?
Yeah, it's a short enough chapter, and like only half of it is an obnoxious list of names. So yeah, let's just get her done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Thank
do
you,
have an
Isaac, for
interesting
volunteering.
question. Yeah, I do have an interesting question about the names. Oh yeah. Well, it's the only one I prepared in advance, so I'd rather do this one than the one I didn't prepare. Okay, should we start?
Do it.
A bunch of names. Okay. Oh, that's 8. Sorry, I went too far back.
Just read all of First Chronicles.
I only have
All
commentaries for
Israel.
chapter 19.
Okay. Chapter 9. All Israel was registered by genealogies, and these are in the book of the kings of Israel. And Judah was taken into exile in Babylon because of their trespass. The first to settle in their towns on their property were Israelites, priests, Levites, and temple servants, while some of the Judahites and some of the Benjaminites and some of the Ephraimites and Manasseites settled in Jerusalem. Utai, son of Amihud, son of Omri, son of Imri, son of Bani, from the sons of Perez, son of Judah, and of the Shalonites, Asaiah, the firstborn, and his sons.
Does this sound a little bit like Lord of the Rings to you?
Oh no, Lord of the Rings is much more
Omri, son of
interesting.
Imri, son of Bani, yeah.
Son of Gimli, son of, yeah.
Gimli,
No,
son
Hey,
of
the
Loin.
Book
you
of
will
Mormon.
not insult Silver
There is a
Tongue
very-
son of Loin.
There is a very, very Book of Mormon-ish-esque name in this chapter. I'll get to it near the end.
And-
There we go.
Of the sons of Zerach, Yeuel, and their kinsmen, altogether 690. Of the Benjaminites, Salu, son of Meshulam, son of Hodaviah, son of Hasenua, Yivneiah, son of Yeroham, son of also Ella, son of Uzi, son of Michri, and Meshulam, son of Shephatiah, son of Reuel, son of Yivneiah, and their kinsmen according to their lines, 956. All these were chiefs of their ancestral clans. Of the priests, Yedaiah, Yehoyariv, and Yachin, and Azariah, son of Hilkiah, son of Meshulam, son of Tzadok, son of Merayoth, son of Achituv, chief officer of the house of God. Which one did I do wrong?
No, sorry, I fucked up something. Keep going, keep going.
So your fault. Okay.
Yeah.
And Adaiah, son
Stupid
of Yeroham,
logos.
son of Pashhur, son of Malkiah, and Masai, son of Adiel, son of Yachzerah, son of Meshulam, son of Meshilemith, son of Immer, together with their kinsmen, chief of their clans, 1,760 men of substance for the work of the service of the house of God. Of the Levites, Shemaiah, son of Chashuv, son of Azrikam, son of Chashaviah, of the sons of Merari, and Bakbakar.
Yeah, Bakbakar is a cool name.
What a cool name.
Yeah.
Bakbakar. Cheresh, and Galal, and Matania, son of Micah, son of Zichri, son of Asaph, and Avadia, son of Shemaiah, son of Galal, son of Yeduthun, and where was I up to? Berechia, son of Asa, son of Elkanah, who dwelt in the villages of the Netophatites. The gatekeepers were Shalom, Akuv, Talton, Achiman, and their kinsman Shalom was the chief. Hitherto, in the king's gate on the east, they were the keepers belonging to the Levite camp. Shalom, son of Korah, son of Eviasaph, son of Korach, and his kinsmen of his clan, the Korahites, were in charge of the work of the service, guards of the threshold of the tent. Their fathers had been guards of the entrance of the camp of the Lord. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar, was the chief officer over them in time past. The Lord was with him. Zechariah, the son of Meshelemiah, yeah.
Mishellemia, yeah.
Meshelemiah. Yeah, that was the Book of Mormon name I was thinking of. Meshelemiah. How would they say it? Maybe. Yeah, whatever. Something like that. So he was the gatekeeper at the entrance of the tent of meeting. All these who were selected as gatekeepers at the thresholds were 212. They were selected by genealogies in their villages. David and Samuel the seer established them in their office of trust. They and their descendants were in charge of the gates of the house of the Lord, that is, the house of the tent, as guards. The gatekeepers were on the 4 sides, east, west, north, and south. And their kinsmen in their villages were obliged to join them every 7 days, according to a fixed schedule. The 4 chief gatekeepers, who were Levites, were entrusted to be over the chambers and the treasuries of the house of God. They spent the night near the house of God, for they had to do guard duty, and they were in charge of opening it every morning. Some of them had charge of the service vessels, for they were counted when they were brought back and taken out. Some of them were in charge of the vessels and all the holy vessels, and of the flour, wine, oil, incense, and spices. Some of the priests blended the compound of spices. Mattithiah, one of the Levites, the firstborn of Shalom the Korahite, was entrusted with making the flat cakes. Also, some of the Kohathite kinsmen had charge of the rows of bread to prepare them for each Sabbath. Now these are the singers, the chiefs of the Levitical clans who remained in the chambers free of other service, for they were on duty day and night. These were chiefs of Levitical clans according to their lines. These chiefs lived in Jerusalem. The father of Gibeon, Yehiel, lived in Gibeon, and the name of his wife was Maacah. His firstborn son, Avdon, then Tsur, Kish, Baal, Ner, and Nadav. Gedor, Achio, Zechariah, and Mikloth. Mikloth begat Shimeam, and they lived in Jerusalem opposite their kinsmen, with their kinsmen. Ner begot Kish begot Saul begot Jonathan, Malchishua, Avinadav, and Eshbaal. And the son of Jonathan was Meribal, and Meribal begot Micah. The sons of Micah were Pithson, Melech, and Tachareah. Ahaz begot Ya'ara, and Ya'ara begot Alameth, Atzmavet, and Zimri. Zimri begot Motza. Motza begot Binyah. His son was Rephaiah. His son Elasah. His son Atzel had 6 sons, and these were their names: Azrikam, Bocharu, Ishmael, Sha'ariah, Ovadia, and Hanan. These were the sons of Atzel. And I'm almost sure we've said all of these names, like in the last chapter, the last few ones.
I think there is a repetition in it is in parallel with 8:29 to 38.
Oh, it's chapter 8. Yeah.
Though there are more. Yeah, there are additional things there. Here though.
I appreciate the obvious continuation of the line of Saul, apparently, but
it's a whole repetition going all the way back to, Gibeon, Ner, Kish, Saul, and then going down again. I mean, it might not be an identical repetition. It might be a mismatch. It'd be nice if this chart put them next to each other so I can compare them, but whatever.
I mean, aside from the exhilarating list of names,
so sexy.
Yeah, some attention should be put on the jobs of the Levites. So, obviously, the narrative we got in the Torah would have been, the Levites have control over the temple proceedings. Their lot is service. So while in this case it seems like they are they are singers, they are gatekeepers, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But there's one
just made denim pants.
Critical note here. The gatekeepers, they're obviously identified as Levites. In Nehemiah 11, the singers are among the Levites, but the gatekeepers and temple servants are not, which is interesting. And if you notice at the very end of the section on the Levites, So verse 33, yeah, so now these are the singers, the heads of ancestral houses of the Levites, living in the chambers of the temple, free from other services. So they did not have to do all the other shit.
Yeah, this verse is it's interesting, because there is like, in contrast to like what we saw previously, there is no like elaboration on the musicians or like the singers in Hebrew. Meshorerim.
Yeah, it seems like it's introducing a section of names of the singers, but it doesn't go into it. Although some of the earlier names of the Levitical families, Bakbakar, Heresh, it says like the son of Asaph, and then there's also Ovadia, blah blah blah, son of Yeduthun. So those are two names that refer back to, maybe they don't refer back to anyone, but they were used maybe later to refer to characters in Davidic times who were big singers.
I find it interesting to look at this through the lens of the discussions we've had previously about the Levitical priesthood, the heritage of the priesthood, and whether or not that was, at one point at least, a designation given to the eldest sons being given to God in some form of sacrifice, which later needs to be redeemed through the process of circumcision, and also through the sacrifice of donkey as a redemptive thing. But we discussed whether or not it had been a case of eldest sons being given as first fruits to God and then becoming priests, those who survived, obviously. Yeah. And then whether or not they were then retroactively saying, no, it's a tribe. There's this whole backstory. Also, these specific families can only do these specific things. And you see here and in the inconsistency already pointed out, that they were trying to establish a precedent or a backstory for who did what and how important it was and how much prestige should go with this or that task. And there was probably a lot of background politics going on. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there is definitely, like, within like traditional Judaism, there is this not knowledge, but like affirmation of the idea of that firstborns were supposed to be priests. And I mean, the traditional idea, of course, is that maybe before Aaron became the high priest and all the priests became his descendants, it would have been a thing that the firstborns would work like priests. But then from that point onwards, God still demands them as his priests, but only priests from the Aaron family are fit to be priests. Therefore, you have to do this ceremony where you kind of give your baby to the priests, and then they give it back to you, and then you give them money or something like that. I can't remember.
Okay,
it's like
so that's interesting.
What's it called?
I'm surprised that the tradition still has a remnant of that, because I mean, we discussed that several scholars were to some degree arguing over, whether or not there was actually child sacrifice. What is this about firstborn going to God? Like, there's obviously
the traditional idea is that they were given as priests. They were supposed to that would be their job.
As Samuel was, although obviously it was very special in Samuel's case, for whatever reason.
Though I should note that in Bakbakar, it's an interesting name. Though in Nehemiah 11:17, it's Bakbukia, so it could have been
the same guy.
But it could be, but the Vaticanus has Bakar, which is
right.
Yeah, but and Knoppers writes that it is possible that the Masoretic has suffered ditography, and we also have and also we have in 1 Chronicles 25:13 Bukiyahu.
Oh, right, because Bakar just means cattle. I don't know if that would be a name you would give someone. I mean, the female name Leah originally meant a cow. So there's no reason why you couldn't have Bakar as a first name for a man. But maybe it was a different name and got changed.
Though also Rudolph's Klein notes that Rudolph suggests following Syriac Peshita and reading Bakbuk, the son of Cheresh, the son of Galal, or
Oh,
Bakbuk, the head
Bakbuk?
of the stone. Bakbuk, yeah.
As in bottle?
Yes. At least I don't know if Bakbuk is
biblical,
bottle in
yeah.
biblical. But yeah,
Could be Aramaic
in
or
modern
something.
Hebrew, or
Yeah.
in Hebrew it's bottle as well.
Yeah, so the ceremony that Jewish people do when they have a firstborn son is called a Pidyon Haben, which literally means redemption of the firstborn. And
it's actually Jeremiah. Okay.
Sorry?
Bakbuk is from Jeremiah 19:1.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah.
I mean, we've
yeah,
seen
so
it
like
referenced, like the practice of redemption via the sacrifice of a donkey or whatever else. Yeah.
yeah, if you have a firstborn, for
Specifically.
some reason, if you have the firstborn cows and sheep, whatever, are sacrificed, the first fruits are given to the priests or the Levites, don't remember. But if you have a firstborn donkey, for some reason, an unclean animal, a donkey, not horses, not any other unclean animal, but a firstborn donkey needs to be redeemed as well. Because you can't sacrifice it, so you have to switch it for a sheep or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pidyon Haben, the redemption of the firstborn son, is
I'd
this
rather have
tradition.
mutton.
Yeah, it's this tradition where you 1 month after the birth of the boy, the family will kind of get together and there'll be a priest, and they'll put the baby on a silver tray and all the women will take their jewelry and put it on around the baby on the tray. And then the priest will pick it up and say some stuff and then give it to the father, I think, and then the father gives.
You have been blessed by the gold of all our jewelry.
It's just yeah.
Why
Why
not?
not? Why not?
It doesn't harm them. It's like baptism,
Get them
provided you don't
everyone
duck your head
involved.
first. It's fine.
Yeah.
Gotta wash babies occasionally.
It's just funny seeing a baby lying on a tray with a golden watch on them, and
I'm trying so hard not to make the atheists eating babies comment.
you're imagining a plush.
I was just is it bundled up in that cute little suckling pig position? Or gold as garnish doesn't really work. If you surround them with, I don't know.
I mean, if you search Google images for Jewish firstborn tradition or Pidyon Haben, you'll probably get images of a baby with jewelry
Stop
on it.
tempting me. Stop tempting me. The sass is already enough.
Got a couple of comments. We
Dinner
got
is served.
Pandora's Pinata offers £2. Says this is a penance super chat for @Pendragon, a Pendragon. Then Puggles offers $10 Australian. Said, I'd love to chat with the panel, but I have to get back to the Transatlantic Call-In show. And then Puggles sent an Arnrog membership, and we got a super sticker from Puggles as well for $3 Australian.
Thank you, Puggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, Takis is a great show. It's just one of those shows that I can't watch live. I need those timestamps. You need Faya to tell you which ones to skip,
I understand.
Yeah, they really are the go to the channel, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start with
Confirmed, atheists are all Fae lovers.
Oh, be careful with the Fae. Well, we are the Fae, I think. You have to be very careful what you say to us. We're very sassy and a little bit mischievous.
And then we have
we'll steal your children.
My unfinished journey offers $2.22. Says, Hail Nero, Aaron, and Co. And hail baby back ribs.
I want those baby back. I can't even.
Okay, so I'll start on verse 1. Klein comments, quote, "This verse sums up the preceding 7 chapters dealing with the genealogy of Israel. Here, as elsewhere, the reference to a source book comes at the end of a pericope. We have no way of determining whether there was such a single book of genealogies, or whether the chronicler has assembled the genealogies from a variety of sources, including those found in the Pentateuch. A reference to the source called the Book of the Kings of Israel occurs elsewhere only at 2 Chronicles 20:34 at the end of the reign of Jehoshaphat, where it is said to contain the acts of Yehu the son of Hanani. The first section in many of the preceding tribal genealogies had come from the Pentateuch, as far as we can tell. It is possible, of course, that the chronicler was drawing on a genealogical source that was based in turn in part on the Pentateuch. The reference to all Israel harks back to the list of the 12 sons of Israel in 1 Chronicles 2, 1 and 2. The emphasis on all Israel also suggests that the absence of genealogies for Zebulun and probably Dan in chapter 7 is accidental.
Yeah, I would like to note that the chapter verse numbering system was invented by Christians, and it's their fault that chapter 9 begins with a verse that should be the last verse of the previous chapter.
Yeah,
I actually
admittedly.
do want
Oh,
to...
pericope. Sorry, Lawrence.
Yes, pericope. I was just making sure because
Fucking
the first time I saw it
much.
too, I thought it was
Periscope?
pericope, but
Pericope.
then I was like, oh, it's actually pronounced pericope. Okay,
Yeah.
that one's kind of fuckety.
You know,
I did want to make a video on kind of like how we got the whole numbering system, anyways.
I would appreciate that for several reasons, among which one is that my old youth leader, who's actually a really awesome lady, she is, she said that sometimes the page breaks were so ridiculous that she figured it was just one of those old monks doing the copying out that was like sitting on the back of a donkey and they hit a bump and he's like, oh, fuck it, I guess this one's a new page break. Because it was just so random. I was like, I feel like a rabbi would appreciate that.
I think it started as like those shorter breaks between verses, and then like longer breaks between chapters or paragraphs or something like that. I think that's how it started.
I believe
Makes
you.
sense. I mean, the Hebrew Bible has these paragraph breaks, but they're more numerous than the chapters, and a lot of chapters do finish on a break. For example, this past chapter did finish on an open break, which I think is where you have a full line, empty line between the two chapters. And then this first verse has a closed break where you have like the end of the verse and then till the end of the line, and then the next chapter starts on the next line.
And they're not all ridiculous breaks, but my God, some of them are.
So I have one question. I don't know if anyone noticed that this chapter, this chapter seems to bring it up the most, but it seems almost like the one name that keeps popping up a lot in this chapter, Meshulam. But it's not just that name. There's also a couple of names that are very similar. There's Meshulemeeth, Meshulamia, whatever, Meshulemia. And then there's also like just Shalom, like a bunch of names which all have this sort of, Shalom, peace root. And I wonder if there's any like relevance why maybe this this generation coming back from exile would have a lot of names that are have that root in it. But
could this have to do with Shalom, maybe?
Yeah, there's Shalom, Meshulam.
No, but like I mean, where was it? Knoppers writes that Meshulam is probably to be identified with the Shalom who appears in other priestly genealogies, like in 1 Chronicles 5:38 and 39 and Ezra 7:2. So like I do wonder though.
Ezra 7:2. Are you saying Meshulam or a different?
Meshulam, Shalom. Ezra 7:2 is son of Shalom, son of Tzadok, son of Achitov.
Yeah.
Probably identified.
Yeah. No, because I have like a list of all the times Meshulam appears, and it's literally like once in Kings, there's like the grandfather of Shaphan the scribe, and then you got a bunch in Chronicles, Ezra and Nehemiah, and nothing else. So it's either the people writing this, like it was a name that was popular at the time of the writing, maybe, or because there is a connection between Chronicles, Ezra, and Nehemiah. They're all supposed to be like written by Ezra. At least traditionally, that was identified as being from the same period. So it's interesting that there's like that these names appear only, besides one other reference outside in Kings, 2 Kings 22. This name appears very often, and some of these are like important characters as well. There's like gatekeepers, household heads. One of the men who stood by Ezra when he read the book of the law. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually haven't noticed this because I didn't really consider it as important. Or maybe the other commentators didn't really consider it. I mean, my hypothesis is that maybe this like combination of Shin Lamed Mem, the root, was quite common in the Chronicles time. So could be, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of like three options. One is like it was popular to the writer, so the writer just used it as a filler, as a name that they liked, so they used it a lot. The other one is it was actually, you know, if we're talking about if they were writing about real cat people, then that generation, that time period, it was a popular name. And another thing is it could be that it's a replacement for like let's say a foreign god or something, if that makes sense. Like they took
like you don't want to write the god's name because
so maybe like a bunch of Shamash names, and then they changed it to Shalom names instead.
I could see that.
As an idea. Although I think post-exilic Hebrews or Yehudim or whatever, they would have been pretty, you know, Yahwistic. So, although not all of the names are Yahwistic, as you see, there's a lot of Yahs at the end of names, but that's about it.
Yeah. Now on verses 7 through 9. Of the 4 heads of Benjamin mentioned here, only Salu is mentioned in Nehemiah 11:7, with a longer and partially different genealogy of 7 generations. Japhet suggests that the chronicler used a vorlage different from the text in Nehemiah. Klein notes that son of Hodaviah, son of Hasenuah, closely resembles Judah, son of, etc. in Nehemiah 11:9, suggesting that a scribe may have skipped by homo eoacton from Yoed the son of to Judah the son of, and omitted all of the intervening material, including Gabbai, Salai, and Yoel the overseer. Moreover, the chronicler may have added additional Benjaminite names from an unknown source. Verse 9 here has a total of 956, while Nehemiah 11:8 has 928. Rudolph notes that numbers in Ezra 2 and Nehemiah 7 are also not faultlessly preserved, and Peshitta has 999 US dollars. Sorry, a meme.
I know.
So on verses 10 through 13, commentators note that the text, as well as the parallel in Nehemiah 11:10 through 13, seems to be corrupt, and some, like Rudolph, Williamson, and Japhet, use both versions to reconstruct the original text. Dirksen, however, writes that it is highly doubtful whether a reconstruction of the original text means that we have restored the chronicler's original text. He thus concludes that it is safer to forego a historical reconstruction and leave the text of Chronicles as it is. He writes, quote, "The textual problem merely reminds us that the writer was not aiming at a historical reconstruction of the list, but was using a list familiar to him as the mold for an ideological vision."
Yeah, and see, this is what the scholarship finds again and again and again. Writings and revisions and edits to writings and revisions are all ideologically motivated, which is perfectly normal, everyday thing that happens with all kinds of material. It's just not divine.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm still
what was the
convinced that
mistake?
Jesus wrote it. I don't know.
Oh, right. No, Jesus totally wrote Chronicles. It was before the nails through his hands, so he was a better scribe back then.
Thomas, what was the mistake that they flagged in these verses?
It seems to be corrupt. Like, I mean, there are certain, like, let me just check. Yeah, look, so, like, let me just check Japhet in the English version, because there's also a Hebrew one, and I don't need to translate it. So yeah, she writes, "The beginning of verse 10 is unusually out of balance. 3 unrelated names like Jediah, Jehoiarib, and Yachin are followed by a 4th, Azariah, called the chief officer of the house of God, and linked to Achitub by a pedigree of 5 generations. the names of the 2 more priests then follow with their full pedigrees. The 3 unadored names at the beginning of the list and the appearance of the most distinguished priest of the house of Zadok in the 4th place clearly indicate that the text is corrupt. The parallel in Nehemiah 11:10 reads, Jediah, the son of Joyarib, Yakin, etc. A different constellation, also secondary, it seems, in which the 3 first names represent only 2 persons. Furthermore, the son of Joyarib, Yachin, also seems to be corrupt, and the name of the chief priest in Nehemiah 11:11 is Seraiah rather than Azariah.
Oh, okay, because they actually compared it to where these names appear somewhere else, where it's corrupted from. Oh, okay. No, because I was saying, like, it seems in this chapter that seems to be a pattern where they would put individual names in a list, and then they would have one person, and then the last person they refer to, they would suddenly have a pedigree. So you would have like blah 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 blah, and then blah son of, and it happens a lot, right? Like with the Levite families, you've got like Bakbakar, Heresh, Galal, and then Matania, son of Micah, son of Zichri, son of Asaph. So it seems that it does that multiple times in this chapter. I thought it was just that was actually intentional, but okay.
Yeah. Okay, on verses 19 through 22, Knoppers notes that the chronicler validates the activities of the Persian period Levitical gatekeepers by appealing to ancient genealogy and to 2 related ancient precedents: the work of the Levites as guardians of the thresholds of the tent and of the camp of Yahweh, and their appointment by David and Samuel. The appeal to genealogy mirrors that of ancient Greek genealogists who attempted to link contemporaries or near contemporaries to the heroic age and the mythical past.
Of course. I mean, it's as much as we would like people to be totally rational, it is always best if you can connect your current hero that you want the people to follow and listen to some past dramatic tale, either through direct descent or through story parallelisms that you can contrive more or less easily depending on your situation. But yeah, I mean, that's always been a thing. Oh, this is, and even there's a reason why the noble kings of Lord of the Rings, if you want to put it that way, Aragon, son of Arathon of the line of Isildur, the last of the Númenórean kings of old, there's blood there, but there's also, because Tolkien is not crap, he actually earns respect and position and fights for his people even when he has no glory from it, which of course doesn't really happen in real life with real kings. But the myth is appealing, and it's been a tool for many a dynasty, both religious and political.
I see. Okay, so on verses 23 through 29, Japhet comments, this detailed exposition of the actual areas of the gatekeeper's responsibility is structured as a continuum, the items following one another with no literary signs of subdivisions. It has 2 components: 1 verses 23 through 26a, the arrangement of the guards at the temple gate; 2 verses 26b through 29, specific items of responsibility. The description of the organization of the gatekeepers, while systematic, is concise and should be supplemented from chapter 26. The keepers man posts on all 4 sides of the temple, east, west, north, and south in verse 24, assisted by their colleagues who come to Jerusalem from the villages for week-long shifts and lodge in the vicinity of the temple in verse 27. Responsible for all the guards are the 4 Giborei HaShoarim, RSV chief gatekeepers, and EB principal doorkeepers, who, according to 26:14 forward, divide their duties according to the 4 gates of the temple court.
North, south, east, and west. The upside down cross.
Well, actually, it was east, west, north, and south. So
yes, you're right. Always toward the sun, the rising sun.
It's always good to know that those are the 4 directions.
Yes.
The way it was introduced.
To orient towards the rising sun does have a certain poetry to it.
Yeah, east being like forward, and
well, and especially if you're closer to the equator. Thank you. If you're closer to the equator than I am, it doesn't make quite as much sense for me.
Maybe, yeah, that makes sense. Like if the further north you are, the sun is more in the south than it is
it's
in either east or west, which makes sense.
You don't get the
direct
line.
So it was a lot of countries use different directions as like their forward direction, the top of their map direction, and it was just European. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah,
Europeanism that became standard.
Do you mind if I answer a question from the chat just really quick?
We have
perhaps somebody should. Oh wait, are you talking about one that's like that we have in the side chat here, or one that's?
No. Pandora's Pinata was asking me if I was open to answering some questions about Canada for potential immigrants, things like why does Alberta suck? And I was just going to say that while I'm totally willing to answer questions, I don't want to take over the show to do so. But long story short, Alberta sucks because its rural community has been filtering the most insane Bible Belt propaganda directly into as their primary source of news, entertainment, and all forms of media for decades. It's at least half a century now, honestly. You think about it. But so they've basically just been copy pasting the worst of American Christian idiocracy. In the rural areas. The cities, less so. And that's why you will sometimes get NDP, which is the further left from Liberal Party that we have coming forward in Alberta. And it's kind of awesome. It's always a delight when that happens.
Then in the side chat, we have a couple comments. Isan Musavi says, does Aaron have a video talking about all the mistakes the Quran has? And he continues by saying, please tell him he's got fans in Iran. We loved his debate with Muslims, and we wish to see some debates with the second largest group of Muslims, the Shias. Thank you very much for that. No, I don't have a single video for all the mistakes that the Quran has. That would be a hefty video.
You only have how many episodes are in the Quran series?
There's a bunch.
Yeah.
And each one of them is like 3 hours long. But I would like to do, one on somebody did a clip of I was doing a debate with somebody and I had to list a whole bunch of things that were wrong with the Quran. And so that one was funny, and that one was short because it just went through a savage list without explaining anything. But yeah, I should do that.
Yeah, especially because I know that you've taken some of your episodes offline to protect people who need to be protected. It was a good choice, and I respect it. But also, you still have access to that material, so you could always do a bit of a clips expose, use it as material. You've already had most of the work done, is what I'm saying. Just kind of
There's a whole thing of like science in the Quran as well that people like to bring up. Like this verse proves that the people who wrote the Quran knew about like the speed of light or the spreading of the.
It just gave me an idea. No, I don't have a video on that. Nor will I ever have a video on it. But you know what? A series. I could easily do a series on the mistakes in the Quran.
And if anyone's wondering, we're currently doing Quran readings on my channel. We're 33 episodes in.
Excellent. Maybe Aaron could give you up.
Yeah, Aaron, don't try and suck off his his audience
information. Let's have access to some of the dialogue that maybe
trying to suck away his audience. I don't know why I said it.
The word you're looking for is siphon.
I will say it was interesting. I ended up in a discussion online with a bunch of atheists on actually on TikTok. Robert Affin's channel, not just atheists, it was ex-evangelicals, but there was one woman there who would become a Muslim. And she was trying to argue that Islam had predicted the Big Bang Theory. But her her explanation of the Big Bang was so warped and distorted in that way that only things are when you learn them from apologists who never get anything right. But it was a way I wasn't familiar with, because I'm familiar with the Christian absurdities and obfuscations around the Big Bang Theory and around evolution and around, like, I know those phrases. I'm like, I know what you're talking about, and this is why that's bullshit. But I was like, that's wrong, but also I am clearly missing some backstory here because this is ridiculous.
Well, there was
knows
a debate where somebody had made claims of that order. Some religious apologist was saying things that were so stupid that they were difficult for the other person to deal with. And so when the scientist responded, he said, "That's not right. That's not even wrong."
Yeah. Which is the most insulting thing a scientist can say.
We all
Isn't that
Feynman? Yeah, maybe Richard Feynman.
What'd you say, sir?
No, it's Pauli. Sorry, Wolfgang Pauli.
Okay. I mean, we all know that the Big Bang is like a rock that farted and birthed a kangaroo or whatever it was.
Oh, I thought it was God lighting his farts on fire because he's really just a ridiculous Family Guy parody.
Yeah. Tomer, did you finish this or no?
No, I'm sorry. We have like 20 more years to go through. Okay. On 33, those who were musicians. The Masoretic text reads, and these are the singers, the ele ha-meshorerim. This meaning is difficult since there is no elaboration on the singer's identity. PSGD and Meyuchas suggested that the phrase refers to Asaph, Heman, and Ethan, who appear in 6, 17, 24, and 29. Pseudo-Kara suggested that this refers to Shemaiah and his comrades in verses 14 forward, based on Nehemiah 11:17, while Gersonides wrote that this refers to Mataniah, Bakbakar, Obadiah, and Berachia in verses 16 and 17. Some scholars, like Williamson and Brown, suggested that the chronicler relied on another source that has been broken off abruptly without naming the singers. Dirksen, however, notes that the problem with this reading is that the singers is not the predicate of these, rather it is exempt, so that these, the singers, is the subject. Instead, he translates, but those who were singers, heads of families of the Levites, taking the singers here as a reference to the Kohathites, who were primarily a guild of singers, as we see in 6:18, which is 33, and 2 Chronicles 20:19. This reading is also favored by Klein. Knoppers suggested reading, these are the gatekeepers and the singers, with the gatekeepers, Hashoarim, being lost by haplography.
It wasn't, if it wasn't the Kohathites, who was it who was allowed to go pack up the stuff for the inner sanctum, but they weren't allowed to carry it?
Wasn't
the three main families of Levites, I think, is that you have the Kohathites, the Merariites or whatever.
Merarites.
And then you had the Merarites.
This is not Blesh, these are
and the other one is the Gershonites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't remember which one is associated with which, but the Kohathites might have been considered more important because that's the family that the priests and Moses comes from. And Korach, though, but whatever.
Yeah, but Korach's sons were allowed to. They abandoned their father to a horrific death, so they were allowed to survive, right?
Yeah, I mean, in this chapter, it doesn't mention those three names. It mentions the Korahites, as in the sons of Korach, which, depending on which genealogy you look at, is either the grandson of Kohath, or what was the other option? I don't remember now. No, it's still the grandson, but his father has a different name depending on the genealogy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and finally, 35 through 44. This section is parallel to 8:29 through 38. In this section, three names are added: Yeiel, Ner, and Mikloth. And one name, Achaz, was omitted. Moreover, there are several variants in the names themselves, such as Zecher and Zechariah, Meribbaal and Meribbaal, Yehoiada and Yara, etc. Knoppers writes that verses 35 through 44 often bear the earlier reading. He writes, quote, One could argue, of course, that 8:28 through 38 have simply suffered more textual corruption than 9:34 through 44 here. But then one would have to contend that an earlier version of 8:28 through 38 was the source of 9:34 through 44, and that 9:34 through 44 accidentally came to be better preserved than 8:28 through 38. End quote. Japhet suggested that both passages are authentic. The chronicler uses the same material twice in slightly different formats to provide a fitting introduction to chapter 10 and acts as a passageway between the genealogies and the historical story. Thus, quote, the chronicler stands squarely in the tradition of ancient historiographers who prelude their narratives with genealogies of the protagonists, end quote.
Although, interestingly, in chapter 8, Ner is missing from the... It just has, like, Gibeon was, married Mikra, and he was the son of Yeiel and Mikra, and he had all of these sons, and it doesn't mention Ner, and then it's the next verse is like, the son Ner, father of Kish, blah blah blah. But in this chapter, it's been fixed by adding Ner between Baal and Nadav. It's interesting.
Though it's interesting. There is another reading of the Targum, specifically Vaticanus 448, which reads, "The son of Jonathan was Meribbaal. He is Mephibosheth. He was called Meribbaal because he had a controversy with the Lord of the universe over the fact that David had returned in peace, but had not repaid the good deed to him as he had sworn to Jonathan his father."
Rather than the obvious reason, which is that is actually his real name, and Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth is a fake name.
Yeah. We can't have that. We can't have... The Bible cannot be wrong, even when it says it's wrong.
But why does the beginning also change? I understand why Baal becomes Boshet, but why does Meriv become
Mephibosheth.
Do you know? What does that mean, Selman?
Wait, are we still in the same verse?
Like Meribbaal?
Meriv Baal here.
Yeah.
And then,
so I understand why Baal becomes Boshet, because Baal is a god and Boshet means shame. But why does Meriv change to Mephi?
That doesn't appear in Chronicles, right? I mean, it's in Samuel, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Why is he called Mephibosheth and not Meriv Boshet? Let's say.
That's something I don't know.
Does it mean anything?
I actually don't know. I think I need to check on all the commentaries to
maybe his original name was Mephibaal, and Meriv Baal is also.
You know what? I hate to rush you guys, but the next chapter is really short, and it's actually getting into some fucking narrative.
Yeah,
and I would really love.
Yeah, we've already we kind of read this chapter already in its version in Samuel. This is
I don't care. We're getting back to things. Things are happening. I don't have to drink endlessly to stay awake.
Right.
Oh, actually, that reminds me. I have to go get a drink.
Hey! To libertas.
Why are people talking about my hometown in the comments?
Oh my God! Are you from Peckham?
No. I live in Hackney, which is, people think is stabby, but.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, it's just the Chavs in Peckham is something I learned about rather ironically. I had a friend who their married name was Chelsea Peckham. So it was very funny to London friends.
Yeah, as a last name it's posh, but as a place it's not.
Okay, as a last name it's posh. I didn't know that. I just knew
so.
about
it sounds
the
Chavs. Like a
Chavs.
posh last name. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I would be surprised that if we start talking about where I live.
Chelsea's reasonably posh. I mean, not uber posh, but Valley Girl posh.
Yeah.
Of course, girls.
Are we waiting for Lawrence then for chapter 10?
Lawrence. We should get him a big drapey outfit, so he could be Lawrence of Arabia.
Did you say, Isaac, that the place you live is stabby?
Hackney.
It's a bit stabby.
A bit stabby. I've lived in stabby places before. I lived in several regions of Toronto that were not particularly posh. And most of the time, if you just mind your business, you're fine.
I live right on the border between like Hackney, which is it's like a mixture of like working class and like hipster style, and another borough which is all working class really, except for Canary Wharf, which is like, you know, bankers and skyscrapers. But yeah, I haven't had any issues. People, you always end up with people like in the north, like outside of London, making like saying like London is so dangerous. You walk in the streets, you're gonna get stabbed, you're gonna get your phone stolen, and blah blah blah. And I think they just say that because they think London has so many immigrants. It must be dangerous.
City. You have to behave as though you are in a large city. It's the same thing in New York. Don't look like a fucking noob. Hold your shit together. Walk with purpose and mind your business. You'll be fine. God.
Yeah. So I got a comment from Omnipresent One, which I like it is numeral 1. Omnipresent One says, just to remind fairly new viewers, what is the aim of the Blasphemers Bible Project? Lawrence?
To add historical context to the Bible. This is a big book or actually it's a lot of books, right?
Yeah, it's a library.
It was written, you know, these texts were written over the course of 1,000 years. They are not inerrant. They have mistakes. They have a complicated textual history. And on this show, we try to examine all that stuff.
As well as the context in which it affects our current lives to some degree.
It's counter-apologetics.
We can only cover so much of the historic context and the way it has been viewed through time. But it should be noted that when Lawrence or Tomer read commentaries or I talk about, you know, authorship arguments over some particular thing, we're not just pulling this out of our ass. We're pulling it out of the literature. Admittedly, somewhat, you know, toned down, and we can't go over every little argument over every little thing because we would be here for all of eternity. And none of us are vampires yet. So we can't do that. But
speak for yourself.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I was really close. But
you have to share.
I mean, some people would say I'm a Dracula.
Yeah,
wow, that was loud.
Pour that right next to the microphone. It's an advertisement.
Maybe over the microphone next time.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so am I reading?
I got Angry Orchard. So pretty basic, but it's pretty good.
Yes, Aaron, you should read.
Thank you.
That's baby chapter.
Oh yeah, and this is what? This is Death of Saul. Okay, so let's just before we hop into it, let's recall the two different narratives we got for Saul's death. We have the one at the end of was it 2 Samuel?
First Samuel 31.
Yeah, First Samuel. Samuel is not
at the very end.
Book for the second one.
So at the very end of that book, Saul, he's in quite the bind, so he essentially kills himself. And then in the first chapter of 2 Samuel, there's an Amalekite, right?
The Amalekite
responsibility
runs to David
for Saul,
and claims that he killed Saul.
Yeah.
The obvious harmonizing argument being that he just wanted credit. Because David was known to be Saul's enemy and potentially rival and potential usurper. So, you know, you would think I killed your biggest enemy would be a selling point, but of course, David is too noble.
Yeah, or just taking credit for a big kill like that must be a lot of points.
Yeah. That's why he killed himself, so no one would have the credit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just a reminder before we hop into this narrative.
All right, we're ready to begin then?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay. So all Israel was enrolled by genealogies, and these.
Wait, chapter 10, not 9.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yep. You're right. Sorry.
The Philistines.
Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled before the Philistines and fell slain on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines overtook Saul and his sons, and the Philistines killed Jonathan and Abinadab and Malchizua, the sons of Saul. The battle pressed hard on Saul, and the archers found him, and he was wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, so that these uncircumcised may not come and make sport of me." But his armor-bearer was unwilling, for he was terrified. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died. Thus Saul died, he and his 3 sons, and his house died together. When all the men of Israel who were in the valley saw that the army had fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned their towns and fled. Was this supposed to be a poem? And the Philistines came and occupied them.
Better than most.
The next day, when the Philistines came to strip the dead, they found Saul and his sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They stripped him and took his head and his armor, and sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines to carry the good news of their idols to their people. They put his armor in the temple of the gods and fastened his head in the temple of Dagon. But when all Jabesh Gilead heard everything that the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant warriors got up and took away the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons and brought them to Jabesh. Then they buried their bones under the oak of Jabesh and fasted 7 days. So Saul died for his unfaithfulness. He was unfaithful to the Lord, in that he did not keep the command of the Lord. Moreover, he had consulted a medium seeking guidance, and he did not seek guidance from the Lord. Therefore, the Lord put him to death and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse.
Yeah, so this is it shares, you know, like basically overall this is the same story as the end of First Samuel there. Now, remind me if I'm wrong, but so when Saul is when he asks his armor bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through it, so that these uncircumcised may not come and make sport of me." So I know that he does ask the armor bearer to kill him.
Yes.
But in the passage in First Samuel, I don't remember if he called the enemies the uncircumcised.
I think he does.
He does? Okay,
let me
because
ju-
I know
let
that
me
there
just
are
check.
points where
Samuel?
they do criticize
First
them
Samuel
and
20.
call them the
That one.
uncircumcised, but I don't remember if it was part of that same narrative.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah,
unsullied.
the
No, that's the other
circumcised,
story.
uncircumcised.
Yeah.
Oh, it does say
Yeah.
that?
Also, there is like maybe not a mistake, but there is a difference between this story and.
Yeah, there are several.
It's First Samuel 31.
Yes.
The same thing, basically. The archers overtook and wounded Saul. He's dying. He doesn't want to be captured and tortured. Armor bearer, uncircumcised, is mentioned, at least in my translation.
Okay.
And terrified armor bearer falls on sword. Saul falls on sword.
Right, but
So
Saul doesn't die straight away.
there's also so the reason that Chronicles is often denoted as like this theological historiography is because of stuff like this at the end of the chapter, where he did not seek guidance from the Lord, therefore the Lord put him to death and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse. That is not the vibe that we get at in Samuel. Or in
in fact, it doesn't. Please talk to me. Please talk to me. And then eventually he goes to the witch of Endor because he had no other options because God left him on red.
In fact, we don't have that like note in First Samuel. It doesn't offer any judgment, right? Like, and it's also as Lilith pointed out, like Saul did try to go to Yahweh, but like he didn't respond. So
it's not as damning to Saul in Kings. The also thing is like he's killed by an Amalekite. Amalekite. He's killed by an Amalekite lad. And over here it's not mentioned. He dies where in the battlefield because it also they find.
But that's also in
himself
1 Samuel.
In the battlefield.
Yeah, it does say that. He does say that he's.
He took his sword and he fell upon it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't kill him straight away. No.
Harukari or Harikari.
Harakiri.
But is it the samurai?
I thought it did kill him.
Seppuku.
All right, wait.
Oh,
yes.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say.
It's not as like ancestrally ritualized, but it's essentially that process of ending your life personally via stabby.
I think seppuku is a bit more. It also a bit is easier. Like it's more. It works better. That makes sense.
Well,
on your
they
swords,
would at least
if you actually have to put your sword down and then fall on it.
Well, you'd have to wedge it and lean in and to fall for. Yeah, it does not sound fun. Hello, Danger Noodle. Admittedly,
I gotta wonder about his armor bearer. You were too scared to run Saul through. Well, now Saul's dead, and you got to run yourself through. Given a choice, Saul or yourself.
I'm taking out Saul. Although I would like to point out also that Saul's unfaithfulness in the context of the older story that we already went through in 1 Samuel, his unfaithfulness to the Lord involved not completing the genocide of all the women and children when he destroyed a town, and offering a sacrifice himself when Samuel didn't show up, so he still wanted to sacrifice and honor God, so he tried to do it himself. Those were his crimes for which he and his house were brutally slain on the field of battle, and he was previously tortured with madness, because not enough genocide and tried to take initiative to honor God personally. Naughty, naughty Saul.
I mean, it's supposed. I think the Amalekites are supposed to be like a whole people group, not just like people living in one town. So
no, the Amalekites were they had a backstory for the Amalekites.
Yeah, though it's not really clear if they did exist.
Oh yeah,
no,
they probably didn't, but yeah,
probably. Though I've seen some that say that they did, but like I don't think I want to get into it.
Not as represented.
Anything pre-David, I consider like.
Highly mythological.
Yeah.
I should say. Yeah. Okay, so I'll start on. So I have an introduction to this chapter. So chapter 10 is paralleled by 1 Samuel 31. The chronicler omits most of the story of David's early kingship in 1 Samuel 9 through 15. Klein notes that the chronicler also omits other sections from DH dealing with the heirs of Saul, as well as the history of David's rise, 1 Samuel 16:14 through 2 Samuel 5:10. In this chapter, the chronicler blames Saul for being unfaithful to Yahweh, and blames him for consulting the medium but not seeking Yahweh, which resulted in Yahweh killing Saul and giving the kingdom to David. Although most scholars see a dependency between 1 Chronicles 10 and 1 Samuel 31, Craig Y.S. Ho takes the position that both chapters are drawn from a common source. According to Ho, quote, the edited story of 1 Samuel 31 was added by the same redactor of Samuel who added other material designed to exonerate David of responsibility for the fall of Saul and his house, end quote, according to Knoppers. This view, however, is largely rejected by scholars who view 1 Samuel 31 as the chronicler's source.
Sorry, I just looked at the chat.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Lawrence.
And Craig, also... whitest hoe. There you go.
Yeah.
What was his initials? YA?
YS.
Oh, YS.
Yeah, whitest. Yeah.
So it says here that God killed Saul, but God didn't kill Saul. Just like God didn't hand the armies over to them or whatever. It's like somebody was going to win this battle. And if Group A wins the battle, then if the followers of God or one of the followers of God win the battle, then they're going to tell the story that God handed their enemies over to them. And if they lose, well, then they're going to come up with some bullshit excuse about why God turned their back on them, or they must have failed to meet their obligations or whatever, some kind of bullshit excuse on that. But God doesn't actually do anything.
No,
I mean,
It's all
maybe
Saul.
they were really shitty fighters, and so the only way they could win is with God's help.
with magical supernatural intervention.
Right.
Yeah, I could
And if
believe
he doesn't
it.
help them win, then he's punishing them.
Well,
Exactly.
I mean, I'll teach you what I was taught, which was that all blessings come from God and all good things come from God, and all things, even evil things, work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose, which means you must always credit God for the good things, and you must always thank him for whatever he's doing in the background to turn the hearts of people to make things better for you, even though you don't know what that is. And you have to maybe also, it's always nice to thank him for whatever he does that you don't know about. But you must never, ever, 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 under any circumstances, blame him for any of the shitty stuff that happens or the horrible fucked up things that are done, even when they're done in his name. But regardless, which he would be responsible for as an omnipotent being, but they are not his fault. And that is a matter of faith.
That some narcissistic gods just will not accept blame for anything. That's why God was saying, no, this was the previous administration. This was Baal's stock market.
Yep.
There's a couple of chats.
All right, so we have My Unfinished Sock offers $2 and says, "Don't kill the uncircumcised, like and share instead." And then Kyler Ashby
the uncircumcised
says that I love that Aaron Raw does videos refuting YouTubers. Do you think Aaron would have the patience to go through a podcast with big right-wing Christian YouTubers to debunk their nonsense? I don't know if patience is the issue. If people would watch it, then yeah, I would do that.
Face protecting oven glove. Just, you will face palm. Oven glove. Do not concuss yourself.
Arn, you missed one just above that, just above Lawrence's message.
Okay, just a second.
Perhaps I should read it, unless
yeah, go ahead. Well, yeah, I didn't see that one, so go ahead, read it.
Okay. Kyler Ashby. It's amazing that the Bible is the perfect word of God and has no historical inconsistencies or lies. It is amazing. Is it April Fool's? No, that was a month ago.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right. God is just a teeny. I can't even say schizophrenic. That would be an insult to schizophrenic people. Like, what the hell?
Okay. So on verse 6, 1 Samuel 31:6 reads, "Saul and his 3 sons and his arms bearer, as well as all his men, died together on that day." The Chronicles reading does not mention the arm bearer and states that all of Saul's household, Beito, died with him, thus referring to the end of Saul's dynasty. However, according to 2 Samuel 2-4, Ishbosheth/Ishbaal, Saul's son, became king after his father's death. Japhet argues that, from the chronicler's point of view, David's enthronement of all of Israel began after the battle at Gilboa. To the chronicler, Ishbosheth's rule, David's partial rule over Judah, never happened. She writes that this is one of the instances where the chronicler's sense of historical probability, quote-unquote, pushes him to provide a diametrical alternative to his sources in the former prophets. To explain Ishbosheth's rule, Targum reads, "All the men of his house who were there died together."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's admittedly, there are so many things where I'm kind of like, I mean, we can hypothesize about exactly what was going on behind the scenes, but it would really be nice to know. And the whole thing with Ishbosheth, and if he was like the youngest son who should have never come to power, but everybody else is killed in battle dramatically ahead of time, so he's brought forward, and then David is opposing him because he's obviously a lot weaker. It's interesting to know. It would be interesting to know what the source of these stories are, because it's a compelling narrative. I mean, you can absolutely see writing a fictional series where, established king and his eldest sons and most obvious heirs, and spares are eliminated, and the youngest son, who had no training, is pushed forward and born on the shoulders of his father's general. And then, this rabble-rousing, former favorite of the king who had turned against him is, fighting back. This is a great story. It's a great story. I wish there was some way to know the origin of it.
Yeah. This story, right? It's you were saying about how it's not taken from the book of Kings. It comes from another source.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a shame. I imagine if the source was one of Saul's scribes, and it was written in Aramaic, and he was there at the scene. He was a witness, and for some reason our chronicler didn't include the last word in that book, which was, "Oh."
That's okay. It was inscribed on the cave with the giant monster, so they could send to the castle of.
Because everyone died on the scene, so how do we know what happened?
It's fucking theater. It's theater.
You just have Saul's scribe writing.
Okay, so on verse 7, the army had fled. Masoretic text reads, "For they have fled." According to 1 Samuel 31:7, Septuagint and Peshitta, the men of Israel fled, which leads most scholars and Pseudo-Kara to prefer that the subject of "they have fled" is the men of Israel. However, some scholars like Moses, Williamson, and Japhet take "they" as referring to Saul and his sons, based on the Masoretic text accentuation. Knoppers, however, writes that the text never refers either to Saul or to his sons as fleeing from the Philistines. Most likely is that the subject is Israel, given that verse 10 describes Israel as fleeing vayanos from the Philistines.
They do a lot of fleeing for people who worship a war god.
On verse 9, they stripped him and took his head and his armor. 1 Samuel 31:9 reads, "They cut off his head and stripped him of his armor." The Chronicles reading seems to suggest that Saul's head was already cut off. Targum reads, "They stripped him, cut off his head," etc. Knoppers notes that while Rudolph in BHS adds "Vayoroshehu," and they beheaded him on the basis of 1 Samuel 31:9, most likely the beheading is not original, given its absence from Septuagint of 1 Samuel. Sorry, Peter?
Peter?
Oh, sorry.
Klein suggested that the chronicler's changes may result from his attempt to bring clarity to the text of his volage, since the cutting off of Saul's head played no role later in the account of 1 Samuel 31. Both DH and the chronicler focus on the desecration of Saul himself, without mentioning the bodies of his sons, though Peshitta states that the Philistines took their heads.
I've always found the treatment of the bodies of Saul and his sons to be interesting, not because there's anything terribly unusual about conquering tribes abusing the bodies of, the enemy king or his heirs or heroes or whatever else, but because when I look at it and the narrative, Jabesh Gilead is, at least in the narrative we've already read in Samuel, they are praised because they had dealings with Saul and alliances, and he had treated them honorably and they treated him honorably. They rescued his body from the abuses and indignities it was suffering under the hands of the Philistines, and showed loyalty to him even in death. Not, perhaps loyalty isn't the right word, courtesy and dignity. And this is something that David praises them for. It makes me think that Jabesh Gilead might have been one of the tribes that could hypothetically have been retconned in as one of the 12, but wasn't for whatever reason, and makes me wonder about the history there. What would have really happened?
I mean, you do have Gilead in other places as well.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Without the
No,
Yavesh. Yeah.
they're definitely part of the story, and one that they have mostly positive but somewhat hesitant relations with. It's complicated, but you think about the various times where these stories were written and how that's reflected as sort of positive but conflicted. It's I don't know. I just find it intriguing, and I wish there was a way to find out the truth, and I doubt there is.
Yeah, unfortunately for a lot of stuff in scholarship, it it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get back to any kind of like text. But scholars try. They do their best. They come up with ideas, and some of them might be, more well thought out than others. But that's kind of the fun of it.
Fair enough. And a lot of those ideas, even when they're wrong, they're probably more right than the average person. They have more to back them. So, it's intriguing. It's part of human history and humanity. And I wish I could go back in time and see.
What are the chances there are some archaeological findings that are pretty damning to the historiography of the Bible that's hiding somewhere in like the Vatican basement? Yeah,
I mean, there's always a chance of something like that, right? Like we still haven't excavated the entire fucking place. We haven't explored everything.
They kept one copy of De Rerum Natura in their sealed, forbidden vault. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I mean, there's Jewish conspiracy theories of like they have the ark, the ark is in the Vatican, or the menorah, or
all that stuff. Now, unfortunately, some things are just lost to time. The time will just take its toll. Things will break down, and there's really nothing that anyone can do about that. In other cases, like there's still always a chance of finding something that might confirm or disprove some certain beliefs people have, whether it be religious or scholarly. Like before,
people find things all the time.
They do. Before the discovery of Nag Hammadi, people had hints of Gnostic beliefs. And then we discovered a whole bunch of their own texts.
I find it quite interesting that some of those guesses were quite right. Some of them, of course, were quite wrong. But nonetheless,
because we had something. We had something to work off of.
Yeah, there was a good deal extrapolated.
Yeah.
I'm
and then similar things happened with Qumran. So the other one's the Karaganiza. But there are plenty of things like that, and it exists throughout biblical studies, throughout classical studies, ancient Near Eastern studies, everything.
I mean, you still get apologists who use any and every archaeological finding that has some Semitic word and try and claim that it's like a Hebrew name from the Bible. And
there are apologists that say that there are New Testament manuscripts in the among the Dead Sea Scrolls. That is false. There was, I believe, one cave that contained any Greek manuscripts at all, and the vast majority of those Greek manuscripts were either one letter, one word, or like a few words. And you cannot reconstruct a text or figure out what text that manuscript is from.
Like 100 years BC.
Well, no. Well, they span, right? So some of them would have been from the first century.
True. The oldest bit from the New Testament, or the Raglan. Was it Raglan? I might be mistaken.
The Rylands Papyrus.
Rylands Papyrus. It's the size of a credit card, but with holes in it. But there's still enough words, or partial words mostly, to tell that it's from the Gospel of John, from that story that we know is a later version. And the dating on that is very variable. but it's definitely 2nd century somewhere.
Yeah, mid second century.
Mid.
So the some of the words on these these Greek manuscripts from Qumran, like if you take one that has like 3 words on it, one of those words is and. You can't build an entire text off of it. There was this one guy really early on, Jose O'Callaghan, who tried to attribute it to I forget which gospel or which New Testament manuscript or which New Testament text, but the thing is he's building off of basically nothing. So you can't make that kind of identification.
No.
So
No, you can't.
even books by Christian, there's a book, I forget who the author is, but the book is called Gospel Truth with a question mark at the end. But it's written by a Christian, and in the book he's like, Jose O'Callaghan is a liar. Like, he is talking out of his ass. He is not building. He's building off of nothing.
Even
This
Christians,
is a Christian guy that's like
sometimes. Hey, even Ken Ham, who
Not a flat
has the fucking intellect of a ham sandwich and looks like a Neanderthal on steroids. And even he called out Karl Baugh's bullshit because he's like, you're making creationists look bad, which fucking hilarious comment. But also, yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's
he did it with Kent Hovind too.
Yeah, well, Kent Hovind is pretty much Karl Baugh's. Well, I don't know.
Sorry, it's Graham Stanton who wrote that.
Graham Stanton. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
What a name.
Okay,
Graham.
So
Very
on
bland.
verse on verse 10, 1 Samuel 31:10 reads, "They placed his armor in the temple of Ashtaroth, and they impaled his body on the wall of Bet Sha'an." Klein notes Christian Frevel's opinion that the chronicler could not allow something to exist, such as a goddess, that he did not think was permitted. Though some have suggested that the chronicler had a different tradition, like Ackroyd, or that his version is preferred over the source, according to Rudolph, Japhet suggested that the Chronicles reading is a sophisticated reworking, quote-unquote, of his source, in which the external similarity of the parallel texts is outstanding, quote-unquote. In support of this,
the goddess of tits and wine. And here I am in the middle of the text.
In support of this, she notes the graphic similarity between the words corpse, gviato, and skull, gulgolato, and between temple of Dagon, Beit Dagan, and Bet Sha'an, Beit Shan.
Ah, wait, Sha'an is a goddess?
No, it's Shan, like in Shinun, but I don't think it's a goddess.
They changed. I see. Yeah, because Dagon doesn't really make sense as a Philistine god, right?
No, I don't. No, actually, Dagon appears in Samuel as a Philistine god.
Right,
So
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't historically, it doesn't really make sense, right? Because it's a Dagon. Outside the Bible, I think he's
Dagon.
In
Canaan, he doesn't. Like I think Dagon was adapted from like Mesopotamian gods, right?
Well, it is West Semitic.
Yeah, but like I don't think there is any evidence that the Philistines actually worshipped Dagon.
No, Dagon appears to be. Yeah.
As I've said,
we discussed.
We did.
Do you remember where Dagon's name comes from?
It comes from Dagan, which
means
is
grain rather than
agriculture.
fish, but it could be. Because on is also like an ending for fish.
There's been discussion whether or not the Philistines were the sea
Dagon
people.
was a god.
Yeah, but not for the
he is
Philistines.
attested.
Yeah. So there is from the EBR about Dagon, Louis Feliu writes that we have no extra-biblical evidence to relate Dagon to the Philistines. Perhaps the late writers of these passages automatically connected the distant image of this ancient Syrian god with Philistia.
Yeah, maybe they thought it was that it was a fish god, and then because the Philistines lived on the coast, they were like, yeah, it makes sense that they would have a fish god.
The fish god, I think it's like.
No, I'm saying the people who wrote this, maybe they thought that the name Dagon was a fishy
I mean, that's medieval, right?
Really?
It's a medieval. Yeah, I mean,
In
Rashi said that.
Hebrew, dag it means fish.
Yeah,
so
dag means fins. Yes. No, but like, I've seen.
You mean they heard the name
You're
of
thinking,
God
you're
and
thinking, you're thinking, you're
attributed
thinking
it
of a
to
specific
people
image
'cause
of a
tails?
Mesopotamian fish.
No,
God.
I'm thinking of Rashi's interpretation of the gun.
As being half
which-
man, half fish.
half
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
half
yeah.
fish. But like the,
Right.
yeah, I don't, I don't know. It
Are you
doesn't seem-
telling me Dagon was a sexy merman?
If you want to listen to Rashi, which you should, because he's the ultimate authority.
Yeah. There is also like a Mesopotamian image. I think it's Mesopotamian, or maybe Assyrian image of like a merman god, but it's not like, I don't know if it's actually supposed to be a god or if it's like a protect the spirit sort of thing. I think it's called I can't remember.
Okay, so on verse 12, 3 details in the Samuel reading are absent in Chronicles. The people of Yabesh Gilead marched all night, they removed the bodies from the wall of Bet Sha'an, and they burned them there. Dirksen suggested that the chronicler wished to suppress any expression of piety over Saul. He notes that David's appreciation of the Jabeshites in 2 Samuel 2, 4-7, and the later burial by David in 2 Samuel 21, 11-14, have also been left out. The Jabeshites' behavior, quote, is not now an act of piety, but is on par with that of the enemies, end quote. Selman suggested that the omission of any reference to Saul's disfigured corpse is probably to avoid associating him with criminal activity, as we see in Leviticus 20:14, 21:9, and Joshua 7:25.
As if kings aren't just the most successful criminals. But yeah, that's odd. That was one of the only things that I found redeemable about the David narrative when we went over it the last time, was that there was some sense of respect for the opponent, however contrived. And dignity given in death, and, not being a complete shithead about everything to the maximum degree.
Maybe he was just being nice to his father-in-law.
Yeah, that's a level of nice I could do without.
Yeah. Also, he also changed the name of the tree from Eshel to Ela.
Oh.
Yeah.
What is Eshel? What type of tree is that?
Tamarisk, I think.
Tamarisk?
Yeah,
Oh,
tamarisk.
Okay. Right, a terebinth is a different word, right?
It's
That's
Ela. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm
No,
saying a
it's not-
terebinth is a
Terebinth.
translation for a different word in Hebrew, right? Like
Yeah.
Elan, maybe. Elan. maybe?
Elan.
Elan,
Yeah,
yeah.
probably. Yeah. Okay, and finally, on 13-14, in contrast to 1 Samuel 31, which doesn't offer any judgment at Saul's death, the chronicler adds his own interpretation. He uses the verb ma'al, unfaithful or trespass, which appears 35 times in the Old Testament, 11 of them in Chronicles, to express, quote, profound infidelity and disobedience, end quote, according to Knoppers, followed by Curtis and Mattson, Milgram, Moses, and following Curtis and Mattson, Milgram, Moses, and Johnstone. The reference to Saul consulting a medium refers to 1 Samuel 28, though verse 6 there says that Saul did try to inquire of Yahweh. The chronicler blames him for not doing so, though Selman argues that this is not a contradiction, but rather illustrates, quote, the spiritual truth that God can be sought either single-heartedly or not all, end quote. Dirksen writes that the chronicler's judgment is not based on events related to 1 Samuel, but rather to, quote, his theological presupposition regarding David's kingship.
Right. I'm sorry. I forgot to include this when I was telling you about, how I was taught to think of God and his actions in the world. If you seek God as hard as you can and pray and worship and nothing happens and you receive no guidance or no internal small voice, that's your fault. Probably a lack of faith. Maybe you did something to stumble. This is just another form of that. Obviously, something within you was divided in some way, and that's why God isn't answering you, so it's still your fault. It's always your fault.
I have the perfect follow-up for that, Lilith. Let On read the last comment.
Please do.
God says, apologists are the worst.
See, he showed up.
Yes.
Thank you, God. Finally. Agreement.
It's about time. Thumbs up.
Japhet writes that to the chronicler, it is not possible that God does not answer inquiries, as suggested in Second Chronicles 16:2. Moreover, quote, the principle of exclusivity in the worship of God dictates that the worship of the Lord and any other form of worship are incompatible and mutually exclusive, end quote. In the chronicler's view, Yahweh had Saul killed, an interpretation not found in 1 Samuel. Knoppers notes that the chronicler does a similar thing to Jeroboam, where in the aftermath of Abiah's victory against him, quote, Yahweh struck Jeroboam and he died, end quote, in 2 Chronicles 13:20, a claim not found in Kings.
God does get so smitey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it for this section.
Are we moving on to the next one then?
11?
I have no problem. Yeah.
Exquisite.
Who's
All right,
reading?
I can read that one.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see, just taking a quick look at it. Oh, we got a big old list at the end. Oh, that'll be fun.
I can read it if you want.
No,
Let me read it.
No, definitely no. Oh my God, no. All right. I guess I'll just read through this then.
You do it.
Start with the list.
Chapter 11. Then all Israel gathered together to David at Hebron and said, look, we are your bone and flesh. I'm going to start saying that now. For some time now, even while Saul was king, it was you who commanded the army of Israel. The Lord your God said to you, it is you who shall be shepherd of my people Israel, you who shall be ruler over my people Israel. So all the elders of Israel came to the king at Hebron, and David made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord. And they anointed David king over Israel according to the word of the Lord by Samuel. David and all Israel marched to Jerusalem, that is, Jebus, where the Jebusites were, the inhabitants of the land. The inhabitants of Jebus said to David, you will not come in here. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, now the city of David. David had said, whoever attacks the Jebusites first shall be chief and commander. And Joab, son of Zeruiah, went up first, so he became chief. David resided in the stronghold, therefore it was called the city of David. He built the city all around, from the Millo in complete circuit, and Joab repaired the rest of the city. And David became greater and greater, for the Lord of hosts was with him. Now, these are the chiefs of David's warriors, who gave him strong support in his kingdom, together with all Israel, to make him king, according to the word of the Lord concerning Israel. This is an account of David's mighty warriors. Yeshobeam, son of Hakmoni, was chief of the 3. He wielded his spear against 300 whom he killed at one time. And next to him, among the 3 warriors, was Eleazar, son of Dodo, the Ahoite. He was with David at Pasdamim. I could go for some Pasdamim later. When the Philistines were gathered there for battle. There was a plot of ground full of barley. Now the people had fled from the Philistines, but he and David took their stand in the middle of the plot, defending it, and killed the Philistines. And the Lord saved them by a great victory. 3 of the 30 chiefs went down to the rock to David at the cave of Adullam, while the army of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. David was then in the stronghold and the garrison of the Philistines when I have to reread that again. And the garrison of the Philistines was then at Bethlehem. David said longingly, "Oh, that someone would give me water to drink from the well of Bethlehem that is by the gate." Then the three broke through the camp of the Philistines and drew water from the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and they brought it to David. But David would not drink of it. He poured it out to the Lord and said, "My God, forbid that I should do this. Can I drink the blood of these men? For at the risk of their lives they brought it." Therefore he would not drink it. The three warriors did these things. Now Abishai, the brother of Joab, was chief of the 30. With his was chief of the 30. With his spear.
Is this the difference?
Potentially. So it does say here that yes, Hebrew says 3. Yeah. With his spear he fought against 300 and killed them and won a name beside the 3. He was the most renowned of the 30, again here, and became their commander, but did not attain to the 3. Benaniah, son of Jehoiada, was a valiant man of Kabzeel, a doer of great deeds. He struck down 2 sons of Ariel of Moab. He also went down and killed a lion in the pit on the day when snow had fallen. And he killed an Egyptian, a man of great stature, 5 cubits tall. Hold on, so this is a cubit, right?
Oh, well, it
doesn't
could just
seem
be
that
the
tall.
forearm.
To
6 feet.
Goliath was 6 cubits, so
It's not even as tall as Goliath. See, God, what a little bitch. 5 cubits tall. The Egyptian had in his hand a spear like a weaver's beam. But Benaiah went against him with a staff, snatched the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and killed him with his own spear. Such were the things Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, did. And he won a name beside the 3 warriors. He was renowned among the 30, but he did not attain to the 3. And David put him in charge of his bodyguard. The warriors of the armies were Asahel, brother of Joab, Elhanan, son of Dodo of Bethlehem, Shamoth of Herod, Helez the Pelonite, Ira, son of Ikesh of Tekoa, Ebiezer of Anathoth, Sebekai the Hushathite, Eli the Ahite, Maharai of Netophah, Heled, son of Baanah of Netophah, Ithai, son of Ribai of Gibeah of the Benjaminites, Benaiah of Pirathon, Hurai of the Wadis of Gaash, Abiel the Arbathite, Azmaveth of Bahurim, Eliaba of Sha'albon, Hashem the Gizonite, Jonathan, son of Shagi the Hararite, Ahiam, son of Shakar the Hararite, Eliphal, son of Ur, Hefer, the Mecharathite, Ahiah, the Pelonite, Hezro of Carmel, Naarai, son of Ezbai, Joel, the brother of Nathan, Mibhar, son of Hagri, Zelek, the Ammonite, Naharai of Beheroth, the armor-bearer of Joab, son of Zeruiah, Ira, the Ithrite, Gareb, the Ithrite, Ura, the Hittite, Zabad, son of Ahlai, Adinah, son of Shiza, the Reubenite, a leader of the Reubenites, and 30 with him. Hanan, son of Ma'akah, and Yoshaphat, the Mithnite. Uzziah, the Ashterathite, Shama, and Jael, sons of Hotham, the
Uzziah.
Aroerite. Yediel,
I'm the one who's supposed to correct him,
son of Shimri, and his brother Yoha the Tizite, Eliel the Mahavite, and Jerubai and Yoshaviah, sons of El-Naam, and Ithma the Moabite, Eliel and Obed and Yaasiel the Mesboite. So holy shit, that last part sucked.
Yeah. You did
It
really well.
appears to be fair, it appears in Samuel as well. So
It's
But
just-
not
it's all
quite
the
the
time.
same.
Not the
Uzziah
same, of
was
course not the same.
Uzziah the Hittite, not the
Yeah, I
Asherite.
was gonna say there's definitely some.
Yeah.
Sherathite.
I mean, there are
differences.
lots of a lot of textual variations.
Yeah, I'm
between
sure.
the two
But
yeah.
especially on the thing that Isaac picked up super early, in what was it, verses 20 through 21, especially the differences between 3 and 30, because it seems like there is some special group. There's a group of 30, right, like David's mighty men, and then you have the special group of 3.
Yeah, there's a problem where the Masoretic seems to think that Avishai was part of the 3, even though the language where it says he didn't come to the same level as the 3 is
It
identical
reminds
to the
me of
next
the
guy.
Three Musketeers.
Yeah, like the 3 Musketeers.
Genuinely, because the Three Musketeers, but there's the 4th guy, and he's like carrying on their legacy, but he's not part of them, but he is part of them, but he's not. It's kind of like that. But also you see this in Jesus' disciples. They reflect it with the John, Peter, and James, 2 of them brothers and the sons of Zebedee, but then the others are, renowned for various things. But
Now,
Peter, James, and John are the core.
So someone remind me, because I don't remember some of this stuff that popped up in the Deuteronomist history at all. Like these things where like you have like the 1 or 2 guys versus everybody.
It's just like Lancelot and
yeah, that is
Oh.
very, very exalted stuff. And like
Very heroic.
you can kind of tell that they're really trying to heighten their heroes, right? Or like their best of the best, because not only are they put in these situations where they would surely lose, like who was there? Where what's his name? This is an account of David's mighty warriors. Yashobeam, son of Hakmoni, was chief of the 3. He wielded a spear against 300, whom he killed at one time. And then there's was it the story of David? Was it David who stood alone and killed it?
No, it wasn't
no.
David who stood alone.
It's Yoshev Beshevet in the Samuel parallel.
But the tale is told also in the other one, but there it says that his sword cleaved to his hand. He fought so long in this field of, dates or figs or whatever the fuck it was, that he couldn't let go of his sword. It was that, heroic last stand.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Somehow
He and David.
survives.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So Eliezer, right? He and David were the ones in verses 12 through 14 that defended and killed that defended the land and killed the Philistines. So they're very exalted views. And then I also want to point this part out. This Egyptian guy, right? Make him great stature. Now and of course you already kind of compared his height at least to Goliath. This guy also has basically the same weapon. The Egyptian had in his hand a spear like a weaver's beam. I'm pretty sure that's one of the ways that Goliath's weapon is also denoted.
It's
Let's see.
interesting because the weaver's beam
El-Hanan,
is thick, but it's not ridiculously thick.
What verse was it? 23. I don't know if I wrote about it.
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine
weaver's
that.
Beam, it pops up. I remember this. So remember when we get the name El-Hanan was actually the guy who killed Goliath? The weapon is described in the exact same way, and this is one of the descriptions for it: spear like a weaver's beam. It's kind of interesting how it not only makes these opponents, not only makes their heroes big, but it also makes the opponents big as well.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, I've noted that Dirksen suggested that verse 23 is somewhat adapted from the story of Goliath. It does appear that there is like similarities between the
it's hard to miss.
Yeah.
It's
Do I
interesting,
have-
though, because when I think of a weaver's beam, it doesn't go far off what I would think of as a spear, but I forget too often that spears were more often used as javelins. Basically, they were a throwing weapon a lot of the time, so they would have had thinner, lighter shafts that would go farther because you're trying to, throw them out especially if you don't have a bow. And then you might have a thicker spear for more immediate combat. But again, that's more the purview of a sword, to the close combat specifically.
Okay, so I think I should start. First on verses 1 through 3. These verses are parallel to 2 Samuel 5, 1 through 3. The chronicler ignores the stories of 2 Samuel 1 through 4, which describe the war between the house of Saul against Judah, represented by David, which leads to the murder of Ishbosheth and the northern tribes submitting to David. Knoppers writes that by doing so, the chronicler creates a literary proximity between the demise of Saul and the acceptance of David as king by the northern representatives. Klein writes that the chronicler asserted in chapter 10 that the entire house of Saul fell on Mount Gilboa, and the kingdom was transferred immediately to David, which makes his omission of 2 Samuel 1 through 4 understandable. Quote, David faced no opposition in Chronicles from his Saul's heirs or anyone else. End quote. Dirksen writes that the events described in 2 Samuel 1 through 4 did not agree with the chronicler's emphasis that David's kingship over all Israel was entirely detached from historically contingent events. On verses 4 through 10, these verses are parallel to 2 Samuel 5, 6 through 10. Knoppers notes that it has been suggested by Benjamin Mazal that the material given here is evidence that David subjugated Jerusalem fairly early in his reign. However, there are severe difficulties with this approach. As Japhet notes, quote, Jerusalem could not have been conquered and built during the very event of the enthronement, end quote. Instead, the chronicler, quote, underscores the fundamental importance of Jerusalem both to David and to Israel, end quote. Klein notes that the chronicler ignores a passage in Judgment that suggests that Jerusalem had been captured by Judah in the end of the conquest, Judges 1:8. Instead, the chronicler attributes the capture to David and all Israel, in order to lend more authority and prestige to this city and its temple. On verse 6, instead of the difficult text given in 2 Samuel 5:8, those who attack the Jebusites shall touch the tzinor, and the lame and the blind who are hated of David, the chronicler has, he who attacks the Jebusites first shall be the chief officer, adding that Joab son of Tzeruiah attacked first and became chief. Japhet proposed that Joab's title as chief, in Hebrew Rosh, was added in light of the list of the chief warriors of David in the next section, which Joab is not found in. Klein suggested that the emphasis on Joab may reflect the prominence of his family in post-exilic times. Dirksen writes that while many commentators assume that the chronicler did not understand 2 Samuel 5:8, he notes Oeming's opinion that he understood them only too well. Quote, as a punishment for the taunt that the lame and blind will prevent capture, David orders that anyone who smites a Jebusite must do violence to his water pipe, quote unquote, i.e. tzinor he used for the membrum virile, i.e. mutilate it, end quote.
You gotta cut up his dick. We get it.
Yeah. Thus, the chronicler omits the taunt against David and his severe action.
Yeah, they make David less of a dick this time. That's nice.
Less of a dick. I see.
Yeah. I know I'm horrible, but it's
Describes practicing excision or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Oh God, I don't want to say it. Okay, on 11 through 41a. Okay, so this section is parallel to 2 Samuel 23, 8 to 39, which in of itself is part of an appendix to David's history. and is separated from what preceded it, 2 Samuel 22, 1 through 23, 7, and what comes after it in 2 Samuel 24. As Japhet notes, there is no internal connection between this unit and the main story in Samuel, which could indicate that the historical source of the information included in the list. She writes, quote, "The first exploits of the mighty men have the pressure of the Philistines and their domination over Israel as their background, 2 Samuel 23:16. The encounters of David with the Philistines could be ascribed on the one hand to the time of Saul, 1 Samuel 18:27, 19:8, and 23:1 through 5, and on the other hand to the period immediately following his enthronement over all Israel, 2 Samuel 5:17, aka 1 Chronicles 48. It seems that as long as David was king over Judah alone, there were no military clashes with the Philistines, who probably took a favorable view of the antagonism between Judah and the kingdom of Ishbosheth. The second part of the anecdote, the protagonist of which is Benaiah, is completely detached from any Philistine context and could have happened at any time during David's reign."
Makes sense. Never interrupt your enemies while they're making a mistake or fighting amongst themselves.
I did want Toma to in verse 13.
Yeah.
There is a place name that Lawrence thought would be a nice place to eat. Nice dish.
Oh,
Could you tell us what the translation is?
Damim means blood, right? Blood in plural. Stripes of stripe of blood, like blood stripes. Blood stripes. Bloody stripes. Or something like that.
Okay.
Oh God. So you're telling me the Christians have commentary about how this is really Jesus, right?
You just said that. I'm sorry to inform you, there is the Christian commentary in this chapter.
Of course there is. It means
on
stripes
that,
of
no,
blood. Of course there is.
I don't think that there is any on the pasta meme thing.
Can I guess?
Well, I
Hold
just
on.
want
Hold on.
steak with my pasta now.
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna say that it's about let's see. The Lord your God said to you, "It is you who shall be shepherd of my people Israel." That verse.
Well, let me check real quick.
We need to start.
What verse was that?
That was verse 2.
Verse 2. Nope.
No. Oh, interesting.
No.
Okay.
Ooh. Okay, we seriously need to start a betting book on this because come on.
Yeah.
This is hilarious.
Hey, that was a pretty good guess.
It was a good guess. I would have given good odds. Given good odds.
The only comment I could find about pastamim is that I think it's called something else somewhere. It's called Efes damim somewhere else.
Efes damim, yeah.
Which could mean, is that like zero blood?
Zero blood, something like that, without blood.
Yeah.
There's a comment that I want to address. Omnipresent One said, "Is it necessary to refute every single non-corresponding to reality claim a believer makes? And if yes, why?" He continues and says, "Do you think believers use claims as a bait for the sane people to get stressed?"
You mean the Gish Gallop?
I don't understand that second question, because believers are often trying to convince other people, and they use really fallacious arguments that they don't understand are fallacious, that are trying to try to make like evolution or science or whatever seem stupid, right? But through this reductio ad absurdum kind of thing. But I don't see them as using bait. As bait to get sane people stressed. No, I don't see that. As far as the first question, though, Carl Sagan famously says that if it can be destroyed by the truth, then it deserves to be destroyed by the truth.
Very true.
Yeah, and so when you have a book that is presented as the absolute truth, God breathed and infallible in every word, well, then every fallacy need be exposed.
I would also point out that there's a difference between what we're doing here, which is a public expose of elements of scripture, faith, and other such nonsense, which necessitates a lot of detail and a lot of coverage. And dealing with an individual, if there is a person you care about, and this is a very important element, if there is a person you care about and they are propounding all sorts of absurdities and you can't get through all of them in a conversation, trying to find the question that will undermine what that stack of absurdities is built on is the best strategy for waking them up and making them think, which is the goal. Make people think. For fuck's sake.
Wait, is the three the Trinity? Is that
one
the
of the
commentary?
three?
Oh, you're still on it.
Yeah.
In what verse?
Well, I guess would have been what was there in verse 20 or something?
Well, it comes up more than once, but I guess
Yeah, it comes up more than once is the thing.
Yeah, I don't think so. No.
Not about the three. Okay.
No.
I know, pouring out the water because his soldiers risked their lives to get it, so he just poured it on the floor.
Oh, maybe it's something about
very Mother Teresa
the
of him,
Eucharist or
but-
something.
No.
Just
Chuck Justin. No, it doesn't seem. No.
Wow. All right.
The Egyptian.
Nope.
I thought some apologists would be like, you see, Jesus is in the Bible. Josephus mentioned the Egyptian, and here he is.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
They really will come up with anything.
Okay. Where was I? I was in 12 through 13. The text of second.
Then go to then do the Christian.
That's the plan, Isaac. I mean, you're not following the protocol.
I'm
so,
agreeing with you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so 12 and 13, the text of 2 Samuel 23, 9b through 11a is missing. Most scholars, like Klein, Knoppers, and Selman, take the Chronicles reading to be the result of haplography. A scribe skipped from "the Philistines were gathering there for battle" to the end of "the Philistines gathered together at Lehi." Johnstone, however, notes that the first three verbs of verse 14 have been changed to the plural from the singular in Samuel. He writes that either once the copyist's error had occurred, further changes had to be made to make the text coherent, or that the chronicler deliberately shortened the text, aided by the fact that the exploits of both heroes involved actions against the Philistines.
It's always easier if you have a single coherent enemy.
On 15 through 19, Japhet notes that the details described in these verses, and especially in verses 15 and 16, are not all consistent. Quote, according to verse 15, David is staying at the cave of Adullam, but according to verse 16, he is in the stronghold. The army of the Philistines is first described as encamped in the valley of Rephaim, but immediately thereafter is at Bethlehem. The stronghold and the valley of Rephaim as the respective locations of the two armies are confirmed in 2 Samuel 5, 17, and 18. The connection between this setting and the cave of Adullam is, however, problematic. Another difficulty is the going down of the mighty men to David, which implies that they were not present at David's camp from the start. End quote. She suggested that all these discrepancies show that verse 15a preserves a section from a separate story, which was added at a later stage to the story of the cistern of Bethlehem. While the first story described how these brave men joined David during Saul's time, when he still resided at the cave of Adullam in 1 Samuel 22:1 by going down the cliff, the second story, which its beginning was lost, described how the three heroes infiltrated Bethlehem through the Philistine camp to bring water to David from the cistern, which was at the gate. The word rosh in verse 15, which in its original context is difficult, might be a remnant of the textual process. This interpretation is taken as plausible by Dirksen, Knoppers, and Klein. On 20 and 21, there appears to be a contradiction in these verses. According to verse 20, Abishai is described as the head of the three, while in verse 21 he is called among the three he was more highly regarded. He did not attain to the other three. Several proposals have been suggested. One, read the 30, Hashloshim, instead of the 3, based on verse 25 in Peshitta, according to BHS, Klein, and Knoppers. According to this reading, Abshai and Benaiah had a special position amongst David's heroes. They were both dignified amongst the 30, but did not reach the position of the 3. And 2, in David's military organization, there was more than one group of 3s, and Abshai was the head, quote-unquote, of the second group, according to Japhet.
Sorry, I was muted. And it does still say 3 in the Septuagint as well. But yeah. So I think that is one of the reasons that the NRSV goes with 30 there, because it would be, clearly like it's not just like a contradiction that like gets overlooked. It's within like one. It's right. They're right next to each other. Like, yeah. It's hard to overlook something like that.
It makes some sense, though, to have like your top 3 that are a trio of badassery, and then a larger group, but those within the group that make like it makes sense. Yeah. I'm sort of.
Well, yeah, but saying that he was chief of the 3, but then he did not attain to the 3.
Yeah, it would make far more sense to say he was chief of the 30, but did not attain to the 3.
Yeah, or some other group entirely, right?
Yeah, the traditionals are a bit like mixed up. Some of them seem to think that he was part of the 3, but he wasn't counted as he was the leader of the 3, but he wasn't one of there was 3 guys beside him. He wasn't counted as one of the 3. He was the leader of them.
It's important to remember whenever these questions come up that God is not the author of confusion. So if you are confused, it's from Satan and it's your fault.
Oh God.
And the other opinion is that it's another 3. But there was the main 3, and then Avishai was the head of another 3.
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
Oh, I found a very like amusing section on Benaiah and Targum. It reads that he was a righteous man, great beyond compare in both the first temple and the second temple. One day, when he stepped on a lizard which was dead, he went down to Shiloach, broke a piece of ice, and washed himself. He then went up and expounded the Sifra de Beirab, that is, the book of the laws of the priests, during a short winter's day, the 10th of the month Tebeth.
Okay, so he stood on an unclean, on a dead animal, which made him unclean, so he had to go bathe in living waters, but it was an icy day, so he had to break the ice to get in. And then I guess even though the day was short, the sun set early in the winter, he was able to still expound on this whole book within a short afternoon, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure, Jan.
I love the rabbis. So on 22,
I don't know what's this connection to cold days, because it's also like on a snowy day.
I mean, the short days would have been the colder days. Winter, you and I are both far enough north to understand the principle.
Okay, so on 22.
Wait, apparently the Ariel of Moab might not be necessarily a name. It could be like a Moabite word for hero or something, and the Mesha still mentions that word, I think.
Ariel in 22. Ali. Probably. Klein notes the etymology of this word might suggest the translation Lion of God. The word Arael appears in the Mesha inscription, where it is often translated hearth. The Masoretic text Ariel is a proper noun. For this name, see Ezra 8:16, where Ariel was a member of the delegation sent by Ezra to Iddo.
Wait, it translated as hearth?
Hearth. Yes.
How'd you get hearth from Lion of God? Was it? just a similar.
The Ara'el appears in mention. Yeah, Ara'el.
Oh, okay.
No, it's
Or-
yeah. I guess.
Bruno
though I-
Zygarts is nominating Picard, Riker, and Data as 3. So there's always that.
I guess. Okay. 22 through 25. These verses describe in detail the acts of Benaiah, son of Jehoiada. He is first mentioned in 2 Samuel 8:18 as the commander of the Kerethites and the Pelethites, and his main role was in Solomon's coronation, from which Solomon appoints him as the chief of the army instead of Joab, as we see in 1 Kings 1:8 and 2:35. This had led to some scholars like Zeron, Japhet, and McCarter to conclude that Benaiah was a central figure for the person who collected this unit, and the list in 2 Samuel 23:8-39 reached its present form during the reign of Solomon. It has been suggested by Dirksen that verse 23 is somewhat adapted from the story of Goliath in 1 Samuel 17. On 26 through 41a, Klein comments, quote, "This list, based on a list of the 30 in the Chronicles Verlage at 2 Samuel 23, 24 through 39, omits the number 30 from 2 Samuel 23-24 and actually contains 47 names if verses 41b through 47 are included in the totals. McCarter proposes that the men are listed in rank order, with a tendency for places closest to Bethlehem to appear earlier in the list. He argues that the list presupposes a time before David had been crowned king of the northern tribes. The warriors' homes that can be identified come from Judah or immediately adjacent tribes to the north, with the exception of the mercenary groups in Transjordan in verses 36 through 39. Which are equivalent to 1 Chronicles 11:38 through 41a. And finally, in 41b through 47, these verses are unparalleled in 2 Samuel 23. Many of the warriors listed in these verses stem from the Transjordan, in contrast to the warriors of verses 26 through 41a, which most of them stem from Judah, Benjamin, Simeon, Ephraim, and Dan. Knoppers writes that this demonstrates the chronicler's pan-Israel interests. Dirksen notes the view of Rothstein and Hanel that the chronicler used an earlier version of 2 Samuel 23, in which the present list was part of the text and was dropped at a later stage. This view, however, was rejected by Rudolph, who pointed out various formal differences between this list and that different one. Though many scholars take the list to be the work of the chronicler, Dirksen suggested that the writer had an old list at his disposal, with some names that had already been connected with David in that list, or which he himself subsequently connected with David. Now, for the Christians, finally. So, we've all been
Behind
waiting.
door number 1.
Yes.
An ass.
Okay. So, the first one is Augustine, who writes that...
Oh, I was right.
Yeah. So, there is no doubt that human wills cannot resist the will of God. Yeah.
What about Ewan Williams and Bill?
Oh,
he also
well,
says
you
that...
see where Calvin got it from, the fucker.
Yeah. And that human hearts are inclined to God's will, with the result that they will be welcomed in the heavenly kingdom.
I would like to say my heart is not inclined to God's will, and I did indeed submit myself to God just exactly as to my husband. I kicked both those motherfuckers to the curb. Eat shit.
Wait, so what's this got to do with this chapter?
Commentary. Well, it's
Yeah.
Christians. They're
It's like they were
relevant
just
to-
reading Chronicles and they're like, okay, it's been 10 chapters. I have to
They
say
found
something.
a phrase that sounded vaguely like Jesus, or something.
Yeah, I mean,
They
he
completely-
adjacent.
We completely missed the verse 2 with the shepherd.
Yes.
he said in
Probably fell
the
asleep
ne-
by that point.
Yeah, I mean, he said it's something that in vain also do they object at what we have established from scripture in the books of Kings and Chronicles. I mean, it appears in the book, so I added it because there is also like in parallel, but I just do what is written
dull.
in this chapter.
The Christians are not creative.
Okay, so he also said that the observance of fasting becomes not the curbing of old passions, but an opportunity for new pleasures.
Okay, I'm not one to kink shame. Okay, if you are really into denial, you are entitled to that. Okay, well, I would have guessed that, but I wasn't going to call you out. If that's what you're into, if you really want the cages and the no satisfaction vibe, that's okay. That is totally a thing. But for fuck's sake, it's not a moral virtue. And it certainly isn't fucking Jesus.
And don't pretend to drop the your keys, the cage keys in the sink. It's not a good idea.
That is why you have a key holder, Isaac.
They need to come off occasionally for health and safety reasons. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. I swear to God, all the Christians just need BDSM to cure them.
Oh,
Bible discussion.
Yeah.
Bible discussion study meeting
methodology.
That's us.
Lawrence, am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I think the safe answer is no.
Not good enough. It's not enough.
But seriously, you can go through all the generations of Christian bullshit. You can go through Augustine. You can go through Calvin, who read from Augustine. You can go through Luther, who was slightly less fucked up, is still epically fucked up in his own special way, and just go, you would so benefit from a dominatrix, and they have better ethics because consent is a thing.
Christianity needs a goddess.
Yes!
Can you imagine Martin Luther with a dominatrix, considering everything that all the hate that all the venom he spit at about women?
And it was less than Calvin. They needed someone to get them in line.
Less than Tertullian too.
Look, you can imagine it, but you can't imagine that it ever happened because of the way he turned out.
I haven't read the other two, but I mean when I read of Martin Luther, his disdain for women was just like, dude, what the fuck is it that he's gay, or is it something else?
Most gay men are actually more respectful of women.
Yeah. It's that the straights are not okay. That's it.
The straights are indeed very not okay. And Luther, when I said Calvin is worse, I meant it. Luther had more respect for his wife than Calvin did for his. And I realized that's a low ass fucking bar. Okay, that is like deeper than the crust of the earth. We're talking about which circle of hell you're in. But it's true. It's true. If you read Calvin, he is fucking worse. And you wouldn't even, it's like, holy shit. I didn't think it was possible. But it is.
It's like an enlightenment.
An anti-enlightenment. It's like the anti-life.
Okay, so Gregory the Great said that the judgment of Almighty God prefers innocence to gold. We, as David, have to scorn to receive gold in accordance with the will of our Lord, but also as David, we have to respect the law.
Oh, Lawrence, quick question from the chat. Matt White seems to think this is confirmation that your safe word is no, but I don't think that's the case.
No, definitely not the case. No. That's a stupid safe word.
His stupid safe word is kitchen.
The stupid safe word is when you can't pronounce under pressure. So something Peter would come up with.
Just red. Red is the is the safe word. Always.
Yes.
Pele yoetzel gibor aviat sar shalom.
If you
That's the
do
safe
not
word.
have enough, if you do not have a safe word established, use the light system: green, yellow, red. Just for fuck's sake, it's self-explanatory. God, I did not think Bible study would involve this much BDSM etiquette.
Oh, my side hurts. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm done. That's it.
Okay, so we're all right. So the time is 4:20. You know what that means, kids?
My gummies are in the other room. I have to step out to get them.
I only have cookies here, Mamur.
Oh, hey, you know
so
what?
good.
Weed cookies. You know, have fun, Tomer.
Absolutely.
These are not weeds. These are dates.
Okay.
Yeah, it reminds me of
A date with weed.
Tongue bit when he says, "Oh, she made the best brownies. I could eat one of them."
Thomas, so is 420.
Huh?
So is 420.
Yeah.
A date.
Oh.
Shut the fuck up, okay?
Time.
So I
For me.
I
Me and I
want
think
to-
Lawrence.
Sorry, what?
You and I are at the same time, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So I wanted to. I'm not sure if we'll. I don't think we'll be able to get through the next chapter, and I do want to continue writing this paper because I did officially start it. But I did want to get Tomer's opinion on some math.
Oh, I don't like math.
Yeah, I didn't think you did, but
He
I'll.
didn't want your opinion
I'll tell you
on
anyways.
math. He wanted your opinion
So-
on some
Liar!
math.
Yes.
So on this
please.
day, 17 years ago, we saw the greatest promo of all time, the Scott Steiner math promo. So, I don't think this math has ever been disproven, and I'm going to quote it here in full. You know, they say that all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Samoa Joe,
no.
and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally, if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% chance at best at beat me. Then you add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances of winning drastic go down. See, the three-way at Sacrifice, you got a 33 1/3 chance of winning. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So Samoa Joe, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice. But then you take my 75% chance of winning if we was to go one-on-one, and then add 63 2/3%. I got 141 2/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at Sacrifice.
Lawrence, I know I offered to marry you for citizenship and also your library. We can include other men, nice, muscular men in
Like
spandex
Scott
if
Steiner.
that's what you like. Just for fun times because there is no God, so we can enjoy ourselves.
I mean, sports was invented so men can look at other men's asses in shorts. You know?
Accurate.
So true.
So Tomer, how was the math there? Was that solid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it fits your IQ. So.
Well, just so you know,
if you think it's correct, then it is correct. Good.
thank
for
you.
buddy.
But just so you know, Scott Steiner did not win at Sacrifice. So
Of course it didn't. Like, yeah, I would expect so. I mean, even like
Too much of a
K.
numbers man.
That's all I have to say. The single letter K.
the numbers
how is
don't
that?
lie.
You know
They
what
spell
K also
disaster
denotes?
for you at Sacrifice.
Mhm.
There is like K. Sorry.
Okay, so we're doing where
12.
was it? It's First Chronicles 12. When next we
Yes.
meet? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, warriors are going to join David. It'll be great. Lots of sweaty men getting close and loving each other.
Like sumo.
Yes.
I love
Exactly.
Not.
Okay. Yeah. So when are we going to meet up next?
10?
10.
10 of May,
Do
right?
You mean
Oh.
May 10th. Okay, so the
Yeah.
next, not Saturday in 2 days, but the Saturday thereafter.
Right.
Yeah. It's good because
Oh.
I have to go to a brothel on Saturday. Oh, sorry, did I
You
say
have
that out
fun
loud?
there, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
This is my surprised face.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that nothing ever happened.
The ladies are lovely. Treat them with courtesy and respect. You will be well taken care of. Shush.
Oh, do I need to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You need to treat them well. Yes, actually.
People
So
are people.
I read the Bible wrong.
Yeah, fuck the Bible. I don't give a shit what it says. Real people who are actually worthy of respect treat others with respect.
Yeah,
The
joke.
The sex
Joke.
people sometimes call the sex the Bible a sex manual.
It's
Not
a
going
really
to a
Not a
brothel,
good
one.
just
one.
not
As
going
Matt
to a
White
brothel.
pointed
Just
in the comments, there's consent in BDSM. There is not.
There is.
consent in the Bible.
yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I'm kind of
Okay.
drunk.
Yeah.
All right.
Go to Discord. That
My
I'm sure Peter is gonna drop a link because he's such a great guy.
Oh,
Join the
yeah,
Discord.
I
Follow
forgot.
Milwaukee Atheists.
I forgot. I posted Tomer's, but I'll post yours too.
Oh, I've never heard Tomer's. I don't think he has one.
Thank you, Peter.
Always a pleasure.
And
Boys, don't
That's it.
make me
That's all
make
showing.
you get along.
All right.
see ya.
Good night then.
Bye bye.